1 second, it's starting to record.
Recording is on.
Okay, thank you, Jake. Okay, so I'm gonna back up just a little bit real quick since I didn't have record. We're talking about the file menu or the opening menu in PowerPoint. This is what the menu looks like when you open the program. And what I wanted to quickly discuss is just that there are more options than just what you see at the top for themes. You can click more themes and go into here and a wide variety of themes. And then, of course, you can search as well. And you could also kind of look at themes based off topics. The PowerPoint themes are extremely good compared to where they were 10 years ago. So I'd actually highly encourage you to use a theme when you're creating a presentation. There's lots of different ones, so you don't have to use the same one all the time and look like you're using a theme, but they're really well designed and really well thought out. Let's see here. Now we'll go back. The other thing I wanted to show you guys within this main page is there's kind of two things. One is the options tab, which is just, basically settings. Options is what they're calling settings. When you click options within your main open menu, you're going to get like the traditional menu screen, and it's going to have just kind of PowerPoint back behind there. So this will have all of your settings. But I want to show you something different. Let me reopen PowerPoint. They also have what's called account. Account is really just a subset of what's within options, and it often includes most of the things people ask me about regarding settings. So your theme settings, changing this thing between, a darker mode, which is what I prefer, and like the traditional kind of white mode, that list here. You also have like the background, which is kind of, if you guys look in the top right, that's what this affects. It doesn't really affect a whole lot, but that's what that's really regarding. And then the other piece that you may not personally interact with, but you might see someone like me or Brian interact with a lot, is this part right here, which this, as you guys probably know, will getting Office through on Microsoft 365 accounts. So basically, when you become an employee here, we issue you a Microsoft 365 account. That gets you all sorts of things. That gets you your email address, but it also gets you Office installations. And this is where we go as kind of an IT person to see, are you logged into your, in this case, mjones at buildblock.com account, things like that. So I just wanted to point out that if you ever see us popping into here, this may be one of the things that we're looking at, is just verifying that your installation is installed under the right account, that kind of stuff. Anybody have any questions about that kind of what do they call it, the file menu or the main front menu? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the PowerPoint now, and we're going to talk about all the stuff that place. I'm just going to click the view template just so we have something to look at, but it really doesn't matter. Anything's fine. Okay, now we're in the traditional PowerPoint that most everybody's used to seeing. And what I'm going to primarily talk through is I'm going to kind of go through the menu matter in here. There's tons and tons of stuff. I'm not going to cover everything. I'm going to cover the ones I use all the time and the ones that I think you'll use all the time. The first thing that I want to do, and I'm going to create a problem. Okay, so this is kind of the first thing that will often, make sure I know how to undo it. I'm sorry, guys. I created the problem, and now I got to remember how to undo it. So what I want to show you guys is how to get the ribbon back, which is, oh, here it is. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm trying to get this so I can show you. Okay, occasionally someone will come to me and go, Mike, everything at the top's gone. What happened? Okay, the top in all Office programs is called the ribbon. Word, Excel, anything, they're calling that the ribbon. And occasionally, for whatever reason, it will disappear. This is how you get the ribbon back. So the very first thing you do is just go to any of your menu buttons. Doesn't matter which one. By clicking any one of them, it's going to make that ribbon reappear. So we're just clicking any menu button just to get the ribbon back. Once the ribbon's back, your ribbon settings are all here at the right with the little drop-down arrow. And always show ribbon is what you want to select. So as soon as you select always show ribbon, this set of settings is always going to be at the top, which is the traditional or kind of default way that most people are used to, but occasionally it'll disappear for whatever reason. Now within here, The main thing you're going to interact with is between right here and right here, which are your paragraph settings. Paragraph settings are traditional to PowerPoint, just like you'd see again in Word or Excel. This is just your font type, font size, alignment, these kind of things. So text, I want to make this whatever font. I want to move it to the center, all those kind of things. So that's where your traditional paragraph or font together settings are. Now, the next thing that you're probably going to use the most out of this top, you've got all sorts of stuff here. Find, select, these are like your normal, just literally searching for words. These are kind of your shapes, which I'm not going to get too much into shapes today because they're just kind of shapes. But basically, right here under slides is your next most used section next to font and paragraph. Slides is where you're going to add slides, edit slides, do things like that. So you've got a new slide button. You can always hit a new slide button one of two ways. It's got the top part, which is just going to create a new slide. It's going to default to this slide every time, your traditional title at top, paragraph text below. You can do that. Or if you want a different type of slide, you click the drop down on the bottom part, and this is where you can select the different templates. Now, if you've created a flat, non-templated PowerPoint, you're not going to have these. You're going to have to make them yourselves. But if you select any of the templates, which is one reason I suggest you do that, you're going to get, you know, a wide variety of options of slides to build your presentation with. Up here, you can do some things with those, but I would recommend you basically kind of ignore those buttons. They're going to get you in more trouble than anything. And then the last thing I want to talk about within this kind of main menu section is just talking about these slides over here. You may know this, you may not, but the quickest and easiest way to rearrange slides is literally to click and grab them from this left section. So I'm going to do this guy since he looks different. He's currently in slot number 5. Let's say that I want him to be in slot number 3. I'm just going to click him, bring him right up, now in slot number 3. So you can do that with any of your slides. You can just rearrange them any way you need just by clicking and grabbing. All right. Anybody have any questions about this kind of main menu, which they call the home menu?
No, but I think it's also a good point to highlight that you can copy and paste those slides if you want.
Yes.
If you have one that you want to basically just, you know, essentially make a duplicate of, you can do that easily too.
Yeah. Let me type in here so you can see this. Yeah. So let's say that you've created a slide, you love the way it looks, you want to create another one just like it. You can do. You guys won't see this, but I'm doing Control-C, Control-V for copy paste, and boom, there it is. And now I can come in here. That's number 2. You got your 2 slides. Good one, Jake.
Hey, Mike, when you were moving those slides, were you holding the mouse down and dragging, or were you doing a single click release and then moving?
So what I'm doing is clicking and holding, and you can kind of see because it turns kind of orange, and then dragging to where it needs to be, and then just releasing it.
Okay. It is a little hard to see you in a video like this, so thanks.
Yeah, appreciate you asking that. Okay, the next menu that I'm going to... Okay. So I didn't see who that was. Okay. Next menu... I'm coming back. That's me himself. So hold on. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, now we're going to talk about the insert menu, your next menu over. This is kind of the secondary menu that I use the most, and this is where you're going to bring in things into PowerPoint. The first note, let's see here. Sorry. First note is just to know that most things can be clicked and dragged into PowerPoint. Let me see if I have any images I can show you guys. All right, so here's some images from last week's presentation. You can, in most cases, just click and drag and bring images into PowerPoint. As you can see, it filled that whole space, but I'm just letting you know that you can do that. But of course, you could also do it within PowerPoint itself. So you can go Insert, Picture, and then you got some options. You have the traditional stoppage way. You know, if I'm talking about, let's see here, concrete trucks for some reason. Let's see if we have anything for concrete truck. Not really, but let's call this a concrete truck. Let's say I'm talking about firefighters, and you know I don't have a picture of firefighters. I can go ahead and just do that to grab a photo of a firefighter. But then you can of course insert your own photos. You go Insert, and then this device. This device is what they mean by your computer. So at that point, you can do the traditional navigate to any picture that you need and insert it, and it inserts it. Once a picture is inserted, let me put this on another page so you can see that. Okay. Actually, we'll come back to that in a second. Let me go back to insert. So within insert, of course, you have picture. You have a couple of other things in here that you might find useful. There's obviously a million options, but the ones I use the most are just picture. This is where I come to add shapes. I tend not to do too many shapes within PowerPoint, and the reason being is that they're kind of hard to manipulate and get looking exactly how you want. So, you know, if I need an arrow that goes exactly from this to this, sometimes you can't get it to look exactly the right way. So I have access to Photoshop. I'm a Photoshop guy. I'll tend to go in, make an image, and just drag it in. I know not everybody can do that. So this is a place where if you need to add some shapes of any kind, you want to put a box around something, etc., you can do that. And what we'll find, and I wasn't going to talk about this in the class, but I'm seeing it come up, is as you enter a picture, or as you enter an object, or as you enter really anything, is going to default to the format menu of that object. So as you saw, I don't know if you saw earlier when I dropped that picture in it immediately showed the picture format menu. Right now it's showing the shape format menu. So I just wanted to show you that. If you ever, you know, are needing to get to that, pretty much the quickest way is just to click on it, and then that menu will appear and you can select it. And I wanted to talk specifically about the shape menu. The picture menu, the main thing you're going to do if you ever do anything is probably like add a drop shadow or something like that. But with the shape menu, this is where you can do define styles, or you can just select exactly what you want this thing to be. So shape here, you got shape fill color, which is the inside color. You can make it anything you want. But then also same with the outside. You can change that out. It's a nice small line. You can't see it too well, but you can change that to anything you want it to be. If you have text within it, you could do, you know, text effects on it, those kind of things. You can, of course, by clicking and dragging like you can in any program, but it is going to show you the size right here. And if you needed it to be something specific, say 4 inches, 5 inches for some reason, you can do that. And I'm going to pop over here to picture just to show you the same thing on the picture side. So if you select a picture, you see that the picture format menu appeared. You can select it. And then again, you've got all your options. You can resize, all that same stuff. The main thing I always come here to do is to put like a drop shadow on something maybe like that. Just so I want to have a little bit of a shadow to make it pop off the screen a little bit better. Okay, so we've covered inserting photos. We've covered inserting objects.
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
If you want to take a picture that's in our install manual, how do you get a picture from our install manual into the PowerPoint?
I'm going to tell you the right way. There's many, many ways, but here's the right way. The right way is to contact the marketing department and get the original image. So just contact me, Isaiah, Ross, somebody, say, hey, on this page, I'm trying to do this, and then we can send that over to you. Alternatively, the way to do it is just to copy it in, you know, one of a million ways and paste it in. On my computer, I have a program dedicated to copy and pasting. You can do screenshots, you can do all sorts of things, but I'm going to recommend that you do not do those things. And the reason being is you're degrading the quality of the image when you do that. And so I'm going to encourage you to always go get the original image, especially when we're creating something like a PowerPoint where we're trying to present ourselves, in the best way possible. The other reason being is that if you get the original image and you bring it into PowerPoint and you start to move it around, click it, resize it, those kind of things, that's when you're going to see that image degradation. And what I mean is that if you copy and paste an image, that's all the resolution it has, which is not much. So if you start to try to stretch it or anything like that, it's going to look bad pretty quickly. Whereas if you have the original image, you'll have more essentially of an image to work with. So long and short answer is contact the marketing department. But if you have to, basically just copy and paste it from wherever it is that you're using the object.
Yeah, I have a quick note on that too. What I tend to do a lot in PowerPoint is I'll copy and paste photos straight from like images on Google.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll do the exact same thing. Like once you start manipulating the actual size of it, the resolution definitely goes down. So
yeah. So it's one of those things I know in reality all the time we're doing what we got to do to get a presentation done and get down the road. So, do what you got to do to get your job done. I totally get it. But when you can, especially with assets that are ours, and what I mean by that, like an image we created, and then I'm guessing, but I'm also thinking that if you're going to the manual, you're probably either getting an image of detail where like the detail matters, or you're getting like I'm blanking. But anyway, you're probably getting stuff that the detail matters when you're going to our manual. So I just encourage you to get the highest version of that you can. Open up this real quick. It's a little bit of a blank slate.
If you were going to make like a thought bubble on that guy, would that be a shape?
That would be a shape. Let me go over here to shapes. And then they've got, so they got some different things. They've got like these stars and banners, which kind of look like that. But then call outs is what they call what I think you would kind of like a thought bubble, like that kind of thing. Of course, you would have it like, there or whatever. And they've got different.
Can you change the shape that you already put on there to one, or do you have to?
Well, they've got different ones. So like they've got like that one. As far as exactly how you can manipulate them, I never use these, so I don't know the exact answer to that. I know you can do things where you can move these things around, and it looks like it does. So if you get rid of this. So yeah, if you were to put this like here, you can move I don't know what you call this, but you can move this around, and it will try to kind of do the best it can to guess where you want it to be. And then same thing here, you can, change these things to look however you want. And then essentially on any object, when you're ready to add text to it, you're just double clicking on it. And then this is where you can, go in and add your text. That answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to open a new tab, a new page here. And then we're going to go to the transitions menu. So we've talked about insert, kind of the important parts of insert. And as you can see, there's all sorts of other things. Draw is really, draw is just freehand drawing, is literally what it is. I don't know many people that have a use for that. So it's not really something I'm going to cover too much, but it works exactly like you think. It's just freehand drawing if that's something you want to do. Within design, this is not something that I use too often. This is essentially, you have all your different templates, and if for some reason you didn't select a template when you created the document, but you wanted to use one, this is where you could come and assign to a template. It's only doing it on single slide I selected, not the whole presentation. Not really something I use too often, but that's where it is. Now, there is one thing in here that I do use fairly often, and I'm only going to cover this at a high level because you can kind of get lost and confused doing this real quickly, but I want to show you one thing. So let's say that I created this template, or sorry, I selected this template and love everything about it except for, here at BuildBlock we use blue, not gray. This has got to be blue. What do we do? Essentially, this format background allows you to go into something and start editing that kind of stuff. So again, I'm not going to get too deep into that because you can start essentially breaking your templates and causing all sorts of problems real quick. I just want to point out that that's where that is located if that's ever something that you need to do. And if you do, you can always contact me and we can kind of work out together how to edit that template. It's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but it is doable. So you're not locked into everything about a template. You can make changes. Okay, so that's pretty much everything you need to know about design menu. Let's talk about transition menu. Not a lot that we have here, but there is some important stuff. So transition menu, what it's referring to is the transition between slides. So I'm gonna show this presentation real quick, just so that you can see, as I'm going from slide to slide, it's just moving from slide to slide. Within transition menu, you can do, fades, pushes, wipes, all the different things. Anything that your heart would like. I'm just gonna do maybe like a wipe. Yep. So wipe is what I've decided that I kind of like. You can select a different one for each slide. In general, I'll select one if I use one for the whole template. So I'm gonna go with wipe. And then there's really only a couple of things that you need to know once you've decided kind of what effect you want to use. And that's all here on the right side. So these are all the settings that matter to using this program when it comes to transition. One is, whether as you move the slide forward or not, you want to use a sound. I think that's pretty much become faux pas for many people using that, but that's what that would be. If you wanted to do automatically, you set your duration here, but again, I think most people are wanting to click when they move forward. The first thing to know here is just apply to all. So quickest way just to take this effect, whatever effect you selected, apply it to everybody and get them going, hit the apply to all. And then again, if you want, after a certain amount of time, you can do that. I'm going to do on mouse click. So I'm just going to show you guys again. Start the slideshow. And then now as we're transitioning, we're getting the nice little fade. I do think that these are a way to very simply make your PowerPoint a lot nicer, especially for clients, because not a lot of people do this. And it's just a little thing that makes things look a little bit nicer. So definitely something to think about, the transitions menu. Again, you select whatever transition you kind of like, you apply it to all, and you're probably leaving everything else as default. But if you want to change anything, it's all right here.
Yeah, and a quick note on that, I'm just now seeing this. If you apply a transition, that little star pops up under the slide on the left.
Yes.
So you can see which ones
Correct.
have an effect.
Yep, that's very good. So especially if you were to do this only on one slide, maybe you have like a slide that for some reason it's the most important slide, so you want to put some pizzazz on that. That's where that would kind of be helpful, especially like when you're in editing mode to kind of know like, oh yeah, I have done the work to put those things. And I think, okay, if you basically if you go over and click it, it will play the animation. So you can kind of see what it looks like in the editing mode. This is actually very helpful, and I just learned this. So what I was showing you guys was I was, starting a presentation so that I could essentially see what this looks like, which is what I've done my whole life. But I have just also learned that you can just click the little star, and you can see what it looks like. So thank you, Jake. I just learned something too. Any other questions about the transition menu? We're going to talk about, sorry, covered everything. Yep. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about slideshow. So real quick, animations menu. This is where you go to add an effect to an object within a slide. Let's see here. Oop. So if I wanted to do something to this thing, like make it just do something, that's where you do these kind of things. This is another thing that I believe it's become a little bit faux pas to kind of have these in presentations. So I don't use these really. I don't teach on them too much, but this is where you would go to create all that stuff. And you have a similar set of menu of, do I want it to happen when I click? Do I want it to happen on a certain amount of time? And what it's referring to on time here is how long after the slide is open. So essentially, once you come to this slide, do I wait 3 seconds or 30 seconds before doing this thing automatically, or do I just wait for you to click the mouse and then do it? Okay, this is a really important menu right here at the end, slideshow. This is one, show presentation's done. This is all about presenting the presentation. Now, one note on this part's going to be a little bit hard to see for you guys. So eventually, I'm going to do probably a dedicated menu or video on this where you can see me at my computer and kind of see the presenter mode, both screens and all that stuff. But I do want to kind of talk about what's in here. So this is where you're going to go to present your presentation. You can do it from the beginning or from the current slide. So, you know, if I'm in here in the middle and I'm editing and I want to see what this looks like, I probably don't want to go back to the beginning, so I can just do, you know, from current slide. Or let me click over here. You know, from beginning will take you to the. Within here, you've got some timing stuff that I don't think anybody's ever going to use. It's pretty complicated to get this stuff right at this point. So if you ever need to get this, probably reach out to me and we'll work on it together. The main settings that I wanted to talk about in here are right here under monitors. Most people are going to set this a certain way, and then it's the way they like and never think about it again. So the main thing here is, like, if you ever go to use PowerPoint and it's showing up on a weird screen or not presenting the right way, this is where you're going to go to fix that. So first thing is just basically you're selecting which monitor you want the presentation to appear on. So even though I'm editing, I have 2 monitors here at home. I'm on my left monitor here editing. This isn't going to default open in this monitor just because I'm here. It's going to let me select. Let me open up display settings. So this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but essentially within Windows, you have what's called your main display. And this is a setting that you probably never paid attention to, but it's essentially where your start menu and that kind of stuff defaults to. That's what it's talking about here is primary monitor. But the easiest way to do this, because you generally only have a couple monitors, is just play with it. So primary monitor, from the beginning, it's showing on my screen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my other monitor from the beginning, and while you guys can't see it, it's showing on my right screen now, and you guys still see the PowerPoint presentation stuff, or the actual editing program. So that's where you do that. And we'll put it back over here on my primary monitor, like so. So does that make sense to everybody, that basically under monitor, you're just selecting where PowerPoint's going to show. Now, secondarily to that, I want to say 2 or 3 PowerPoint versions ago, they really released presenter view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this where the presentation shows up on my right monitor, the one you guys cannot see. And I'm going to start my presentation. So I want you to imagine with me, I'm in the middle of the presentation, and on my right screen is the presentation. This is also what you or the customer would be seeing. And as I'm going through the presentation, you can see that PowerPoint is also going down through the slides. The secondary option to this is if you do presenter mode. It's going to take your second monitor, if you have one, the one that the customer does not see, and make it more useful to you, the presenter. So now, instead of seeing PowerPoint when I start a presentation, I see this. So I see a live view of what the customer is seeing. I also see my next upcoming slide. And then I also see notes. This is really helpful. So let's see here, view. Let me figure out how to get the notes. That's not what I want. There it is. Okay. So you just click and drag from the bottom, and you have this little note section down here. We'll put some notes. Okay. So I've added some notes to my slides. I'm going to go back to presentation. I've got presenter mode turned on. Let it load. And now you'll see that you have your notes. Here's why this is super helpful. Presenter mode super helpful. You see the next upcoming slide. I find that to be pretty helpful because you kind of know what's coming next. But what I really find helpful is these notes. And the notes are associated with a slide that's actively seen by everybody. So this is a great place where if you've got a slide with 4 or 5 bullet points, but you need to have some additional, like we all do, the stuff you want to say but you don't want to have on the presentation, you can put those here in the notes. And then if you use presenter mode, you'll have all your notes right here to yourself. You can see the presentation that they're looking at. You can see your notes that you're kind of trying to talk on. You can see the slide that's coming up. I really find this to be a super helpful tool. The only place that it becomes a completely unhelpful tool is if you're like on a laptop or something with a single screen. This is a tool that's only going to be helpful to you if you're, in a dual screen environment. So if you're at work, where everybody has 2 screens and you're doing a presentation or something like that, or, like a conference where you kind of got the traditional setup, then presenter mode is a super helpful thing that I find really helps me, when I'm giving the presentations to know what I'm talking about, be on task, all that kind of stuff.
And for everybody listening, that, in my opinion, that's probably the biggest takeaway here. Like presenter mode, I'm pretty sure it didn't used to be a thing.
Correct.
2 versions ago. And yeah, using those notes is key, because what you used to have to do is if you wanted to talk about a subject, you would have to put it actually on your slide so that you can remember it. But with this, you can kind of, basically have those notes in presenter view and you're good.
And one thing I am going to show you guys, this is kind of a weird way of showing it, but essentially, so if you were to print a PowerPoint, like physically print it, this is one way you can print it, it has a slide at the top, and then it will, one is called notes page. And essentially what I'm saying is you can print off slide with notes. So if you are in a scenario where you don't have the dual screens, this would be a way to fake it. So, if you're going somewhere and they're going to put the presentation up on a screen and like you're not even going to have access to your laptop, this would be an option where you could see the slide and see your notes and then not have to put all that on the screen per se. So and basically that works the exact same way as you're building the PowerPoint and putting notes in. When you go to print under slide, what does that call it? Notes page, then it's just going to grab those notes, whatever they are, and put them right down here at the bottom.
But couldn't you always on your laptop have your notes and see the next slide while the projector's just seeing the one slide?
Right. What I meant by that was like more if you're like in a web meeting, like where you don't have it. So a projector would act as like a second screen. But if you're just sitting somewhere like, talking to somebody and you're kind of showing them your laptop, in that case, presenter mode's of no help, because you really have to have that separation of what the customer or the client or whoever sees and then what you're seeing. So any case where you have that, you can use presenter mode. And, basically what will happen if you use presenter mode on a single screen, I don't remember which it shows, whether it shows the presentation or the presenter mode, but you won't be in a problem. You just quickly only see one or the other.
So if you're doing a conference, and you're sharing the screen with some other people, you could go to presenter mode and they would see the one screen and you would have the next slide and the notes on your computer, right?
Right. So a lot of this is going to depend on exactly how your computer is set up. But like at a conference, generally, you're going to have a laptop that's connected to a projector. So what you would do is you would come in here and you would select presenter mode, and then whatever of these is the projector you would select. I can't show that to you because I don't have a projector connected to my computer, but let's just say it's monitor 2 for whatever reason. And as you went to do your presentation, what would happen is on your laptop screen, you would see this. So you would see kind of the presenter mode. And then off on the projector, they would see the actual presentation mode, which looks like that. So, like I said, there's some variables in that, and the variables are how your laptop or your computer is physically set up, which, could be all sorts of different ways. So in that case, and especially, if you're at a conference or having a big meeting or something like that, just contact me. What we'll do before the meeting is I'll have you just quickly present to me as the customer. That way I have insight into what they're going to be seeing. And then we could just tweak your settings to get it, working the way that it's supposed to work. That way, when you go into the meeting or the presentation or whatever, you don't have to worry about it. We've already tested it. We know, what it's going to look like, what we're dealing with. All right. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. I do want to do some follow-up classes, but I didn't want to get too far in the weeds because if you don't know a lot about PowerPoint, that's already a lot to take in. So I just wanted to cover the basics today of essentially, kind of where you go do things. I think the next class, which I wouldn't probably encourage everybody to attend, just the people that want to, but I think my next PowerPoint class is going to be creating a PowerPoint from start to finish. So I'll get a bunch of pictures, images, text, and all that, and I'll create a PowerPoint presentation from start to finish, kind of show you how to do all the little minutia. Of course, if you know how to use PowerPoint and do day-to-day, that won't be very helpful to you. But if it's something that you need to learn and grow in, I think that'll be a helpful next step. So I'll start kind of planning that class. And then if it's needed, I can do another class like this, kind of a traditional class that gets more into topics. So if there's topic that people feel like we need to get farther into, you can let me know and we can do that.
Question.
Go for it.
Templates. A lot of times putting a PowerPoint together, our template we'll use has the BuildBlock information on the bottom, and I have not figured out how to go and edit that. So will we be having one on how to create or get a template from the office? So every page, when you add a sheet, it's already got that on it.
So to be completely honest, I knew we had a template, but I wasn't even thinking about that when I made this class. I just wasn't thinking about it. So what I will probably do is I'll get with Isaiah, and I don't know if I'll do it live like this or if I'll just make something and post it, but I would do a little thing specific to our template, like how it works, how to edit it, what you can and can't do with it. Because you're right, it does exist, and I totally forgot about that because in IT we don't use it really at all. So I just wasn't even thinking about that. But I will get that template and get some information about how it works. Because obviously that's something we built, and so it could be any way. But I'll find out how it is done, and then I'll put something together so that like specific to our template, what you can and can't do and how you do those things with it.
That's probably just a question of editing the footer, I bet.
It probably is. I just don't know because literally I don't know that I've ever opened up the template, so I just can't answer that question yet. But I will find that out and get you an answer on that.
Yeah, we have a couple to kind of do different things, but they're all available to you. And yeah, all of it is just Mike, you go to the slide master and adjust.
Okay,
that's all it is.
So it is that's good to know. So it is in that slide master thing I talked to you guys about, which is also something I said, don't mess with this too much. So I will spend a little bit of time and get a little more detailed with our templates. I'll probably make a presentation just on our templates and if you want to edit this or do whatever, these are the specific steps to get that accomplished because we can do that for our own template. Can't really do that for every template, in the world, but for ours that everybody's using, I can sit down and get some very specific details on how to use it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we all have one that has the BuildBlock logos because we can all, from this, add slides and stuff and make sure we're using the same one, or if something changes. I know years ago we changed the logo and I kept getting caught with stuff that had the old logo or it has the wrong address. So just something we always keep up. I had two other things. I had that on my list too, but and you probably can show us next time, but just how to embed a video in there. And then also and you could cover this right now so everybody knows how to send the images to the projector.
Like just how to
once you plug in, if it doesn't automatically go to the projector, I know there's a function typically.
That second one, I'm going to say is if that does happen, that's actually a Windows problem, and what's causing it can be different from time to time. So I don't have a black and white, this is what you do when that happens. So I have two recommendations. One is that if you are a person that gives a lot of laptop presentations and this is happening to you, contact me specifically. Let's look at you, your laptop, your setup, and like make sure it's all the best it can be. And then this is another one that's kind of like contact me if and when it happens. Because again, from different laptop to laptop, different projector to projector, this is going to change what happens. So I don't have a black and white answer, but your
Well,
number one like start is just call me, or go into presenter mode and look at your monitors. Let me open up.
I don't know if this has changed since my former days as a AV tech, but what I would say, because if this happens, Mike, they're going to be standing in front of a crowd of people. They're not going to call you. The function key on your computer, and then the function button that has the screen on it, is if you do that, it should send it to the projector. At least that's how it used to work. I don't think it's probably changed.
It's the same. The problem is that the function key is different from computer manufacturer to computer manufacturer, so I can't tell you which key to press. And then also, not all keyboards have the computer monitor on the keyboard. So he is right. There's a button that what it does. This cycle menu right here, going between monitors, all it is a key that just cycles between these. But it's different from manufacturer to manufacturer. Basically, like on HP computers, it's one button. On Dell computers, it's a different button, et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard for me to say on your computer because I don't know what computer you have sitting in front of you it would be. But that, again, that's something if before you do a presentation you want to know the answer to that, we can look at your computer and kind of like figure out this is how your environment looks, and then before you step into a meeting or something like that. And then
go ahead.
I'm gonna cover the video part right now because that's pretty easy. Let's see here. Let me find the easiest way. Okay, so I don't know if I have any. Let me see if I have an image or video on my computer right now. I don't think I do. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm just seeing if I have anything to embed. Okay. I can't show this to you fully, so I will cover it in the next class. I just don't have a video to embed. But when you go to the insert menu, and we were talking about everything related to picture insertion, it's exactly the same thing, just under a different button. Okay, so all you have to do is instead of going to picture, you just come over here to video. You're going to navigate to the video. Like I said, I don't have one to show you guys, but you navigate to it, select insert, and insert the video. You can do the same thing with, just like I had shown you with pictures, of clicking and dragging. You can do the same thing with videos. They will click and drag in here. Here are my kind of notes and best practices on videos. Videos are kind of one of the quickest ways, if you have a lot of them in a PowerPoint presentation, that a PowerPoint presentation will just start running badly. The way PowerPoint works is every time you put a video presentation into the presentation, it essentially tries to ingest it into that PowerPoint file, which makes the overall file size bigger. So as you add more video files, the PowerPoint file gets bigger. And just like with everything, large file sizes don't always work. And especially PowerPoint, which is not designed to really operate with large file size. So that's kind of my only thing, is just to know that if you've got a presentation with a lot of videos in it and it's running slowly, it's probably because it has a lot of videos in it. There are things that we can do to try to alleviate that. That's another one of those where contact me and I can look at it and try to figure out what we can do. But just know that's just kind of one of the challenges. PowerPoint is not the best at playing video. You would think that that'd be something they'd be great at because it's something you need to do in PowerPoint all the time, but they've never really figured that out. So seeing videos be a bit glitchy in PowerPoint, those kind of things, very common. I can tell you, like audio visual tech scenario, like when we're doing, big conferences, which I used to do too, we won't even use PowerPoint to play back video. We'll use something, you know, the customer it may look like it's PowerPoint playing it back, but they're probably selecting something else, playing that video back, and coming back to PowerPoint just because we have a PowerPoint side of that. So I've got a note here in my next class. I am going to get a little more into detail on embedding video once I have some videos to embed and stuff like that. So, are there any other questions that you guys have about what we covered today? Okay, I'm going to wrap the meeting up. I'm going to do a quick summary and then wrap the meeting up. But I just want everybody to know that, you know, I'm guessing that especially on this one, you're going to have later today be like, oh, I forgot to ask, whatever. Just Slack me, email me, whatever. You know, I'll be happy to answer the question. You know, if it's something that I really feel like everybody needs to know, I'll make a note of it and make sure to include that in the next class. So I just want real quickly, I'm actually going to bring my notes over here. And then I'm just going to kind of summarize class again real quick. Let's see here. So PowerPoint, when you open it up, it's going to be in the file menu. The thing to know there is basically you're going to see your recent files and your templates. And then, of course, you've got that options tab, which is where you can quickly go change things like how PowerPoint looks, that kind of stuff. Go into your very first menu, which they call the home menu. We kind of discussed how to get the ribbon back. If the ribbon goes away, just go to any menu button so the ribbon appears. And then in the right corner, you've got the little drop-down button where you can select it to stay there for forever. We covered paragraph settings, creating new slides. We covered, you know, inserting pictures. We're going to cover more video and that kind of stuff. And I will also say as a note, if there's other things that you guys have to embed into PowerPoints that are challenging, let me know, and I can cover and research that as well. We covered kind of design, both the templates and the kind of simple things you can do to edit your template. And I'm going to spend some time looking at the BuildBlock template and make sure we better understand that. We talked about transition menu, how to apply the transition to everything. And then lastly, we kind of talked about slide menu, how to do presenter settings and modes and those kind of stuff. And like I said, I'm going to do an additional little video on that. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a video camera out and film this where you can see me in both my screens so that you can see as I'm selecting the different modes exactly what's happening. And that way we just all on the same page about how to do that stuff. So I'm going to just open it up last time for anybody that has any questions before we close the class here.
I just have a quick sort of related question. Isaiah may know if you don't know. What is the font that BuildBlock logo is in now? What is it called?
That's definitely, I don't know if Isaiah knows, but I definitely don't know.
I think it's Futura.
It definitely looks like Futura. That could be true.
Yeah.
Futura Medium.
Most of what we stick to is Futura standard, and then we'll do medium or bold or whatever we need depending on it. I think that's what the logo is. I know all of our ads and stuff, like all of the text in that kind of stays in that range, and we do that for video too. But I think that's right.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to know in a jam. It used to be Impact, which was that ugly, like 3D blocky thing, but I never did find out what the new one was when we changed it.
Isaiah, is that typically what you guys use in the BuildBlock presentations as well? Is Futura?
Like when we do webinars and stuff. Sometimes, but I also know that like for some of that presentation type stuff, we've just kind of done whatever. So Times New Roman, Arial, like some of those standard fonts are fine too.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem, guys. The last thing I was going to say is that just that, you know, I hope these classes are helpful. That's the point of me doing these, is just to try to be helpful and make the tools that I support more useful to you guys. So we're going to definitely make this a regular thing. And, you know, as you guys have questions, ideas on these classes, just let me know. Because I've got the next couple kind of in my head of what they're probably going to be, but not beyond that. So if you've got topics that you want to cover, just let me know. And you can think wider than just PowerPoint too. So like as I'm hearing you guys talk, if it would be helpful to do a class on how to make a PowerPoint in the sense of like branding. You know, how do I use the PowerPoint, the BuildBlock template? How do I make a PowerPoint that looks the way BuildBlock wants me to make it? We could do that class. So remember, I'm in the marketing department too, so I can do that skill set too. So if there's stuff like that that you guys need or want, you just let me know, and that's something I can work on.
We could do it on the enterprise, I see.
yes, we can.
Make it so.
I'd be happy to do that class.
Yeah, definitely helpful, Mike. I stink at this stuff. I did do mine last year, and once I found a template, it's not too hard, but yeah, I'm not very good at it. Haven't had a lot of experience. Us old guys didn't grow up doing this, so thanks. Very helpful.
Okay. Well, unless anybody has any other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and end the class. But like I said, if you guys have additional questions later today, whatever, just let me know. I'm happy to always answer questions. And a lot of times the questions that you ask are what I get the ideas from for classes like this. That's where this class came from. So always willing to answer questions, and I really appreciate them as well. So with that, I will just say have a wonderful rest of your Fridays, guys. If you're in Oklahoma City, try to stay warm, and I'll talk to you soon.
Good weekend, guys. Everybody enjoy it.
Thank you.
Good job, Mike.
See you guys.
Have a great day.